Matthew chapter 25. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man travelling into a far country, who called his own servants, and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. After a long time the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was a hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was a hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. and these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. Matthew chapter 25 is a chapter of the Bible that is entirely red text. Everything from Matthew chapter 25 is spoken by Jesus Christ. And I think it's fitting here. I think it makes sense in the narrative. The way that the gospel's being told in Matthew feels very natural, and it just feels like many stories end up being told like this. And so just think of it how the beginning, it wouldn't really make sense to have a chapter, Matthew chapter 2, be entirely red text, because there was a lot, the stage had to be set. And then also what I think about, and I've actually been hinting at it in the last couple of videos, so this happened, we see this with movies and all various media. At the beginning of a story, sometimes a year will fly by in just a page when you're reading a story in the beginning. But when you start to get around the climax of the story, time really slows down. Not that many days have been passing in the previous chapters. A lot is going on in a small period of time here at this point in the Bible. And I think it makes sense that that's why around this part is when we're getting most of the red text. Okay, this chapter has multiple parables in it and some great teachings. I probably could talk a lot more about this chapter, but it's actually going to be a short video because it's almost like it would be too, you would have to dive too deep, I think, because the way that I think the parables work and the way that I just think of analogies and things like that in general, a parable basically, it's an analogy. It's a story that's serving as an analogy. A lot of stuff, and especially when it comes to the spiritual, many of this stuff is ineffable. You literally can't describe it with language, so we can only do our best. And parables and analogies, they really help you say things that can't be said so easily. You need to give people examples, and that's basically like a parable. It's giving you an example of something. And I think that it's important to talk about the difference between good analogies or good parables and bad ones. And like, you might ask, why did Jesus need to give parables? What is the point of coming up with a whole story about something? And instead of just saying that thing, well, I mean, I just kind of hinted at it. Some stuff is ineffable. You can't even describe it. There is this idea of it's fulfilling prophecy. It was prophesied that Jesus was going to speak in parables. But I think that there's a practical reason. And Jesus gave really good parables. And I think what we can take from that is that you can really study the parables, and I think study the details of the parables. It's often the little details of the parables that I personally think can give you insights. Whereas if you just read through the parable, okay, sure, you should be able to, step one, understand the main idea of the parable. But the importance of the parables, or how we might use them more effectively than just, okay, what's the general theme? I think that there's a lot hidden in the details of these things. And just to give you an example, like the parable of the 10 virgins. So what's being taught here is to always be ready, be vigilant. But I think that you probably could really study this parable and study the details of the parable and try to learn some more stuff from it. Just so something that I wrote down, I know you not. Well, Jesus has said those same exact things otherwhere in the Bible, where there's people, and so just thinking of it like that, the parable of the 10 virgins, like the 10 virgins, are 5 of them are wise and 5 are unwise. It's not that 5 of them are good and 5 are evil, and they're all virgins. There's 10 of them and they're all virgins. It's not like a parable of 5 goats and 5 sheep. So there's just really interesting little details that you can think of. And what is the difference between the virgins? Well, I guess Jesus says 5 of them are wise and 5 of them are not wise. So the unwise ones end up being told, I know you not, by Jesus. And so to me, this reminds me of, there's a lot of people. Jesus tells us that there's going to be people that say, Lord, Lord, on the last day. And Jesus is going to say, I don't know you. And so here, this is a parable about those people, the unwise, people who weren't ready. And so that tells you who are those people who thought that they were going to be saved, but then on the last day, they weren't. They were the unwise. They were the people who weren't ready, who weren't vigilant, who were sleeping on the job. They knew about Jesus. They claimed to be a Christ follower, but they weren't ready. They weren't ready. So they were not ready when Jesus came back. Okay, the next one, the parable of the talents. I don't have a lot to say about it. It is a good parable. I think that the main theme of the parable is not too hard to come by, but from this one, it might be interesting to look into the idea of how the unprofitable servant, Jesus says, goes to outer darkness. And so outer darkness is just a really interesting biblical idea. And notice people don't talk about outer darkness like they do hell. In the media, if you go to a church, don't most 501c3 type pastors, you hear them talking about hell a lot, but outer darkness, it's one of those things. And whenever there's something like that catches my eye and I'm like, hey, why don't people talk about this more often? It's probably because they don't want you studying that and learning that things aren't as the TV and general consensus would have you believe. There's more to this place than just hell. There's also, Jesus talks about outer darkness. And Jesus talks about goats and sheep, and the goats and the sheep being separated. And that should make it really obvious why is the media obsessed with goats? For the past, I don't know, decade or something, the media has been really, really obsessed with calling people like goat. Capital GOAT, and I won't even say what it stands for because it's blasphemous. But yeah, there's a reason why these people are obsessed with goats, and it gets even deeper than that. Like looking into the way that goats operate, they're more by themselves. And anyways, I'm just saying there's people out there that they really attach to that idea of being a goat, and they're into it. This chapter ends with Jesus talking about, inasmuch as ye did it, or did it not to me, to one of the least of these, ye did it, or ye did it not to me. So I think that this is hinting at the whole idea of we're all somehow, this is probably one of the more mysterious aspects of the kingdom, that we are all one somehow. We're all connected somehow. And by helping somebody out, you really are helping Jesus out too, because he's a part of us and we're all a part of each other too. And this gets turned into so much new agey stuff that it is just incredible to me that it doesn't get pointed out that Jesus talked like this all the time. You know, it just makes me think of the stupid Beatles. There's a Beatles song that rips off this idea so much, and people think it's, oh, look how smart that is. But nobody ever points out that Jesus literally is the one who told us that that's how it is, that we're all one. Anyway, so this is an interesting chapter. I probably could have had a lot more to say about it, but leave it in the comments if you have anything to add. I guess I'll just say here, because it's something that I've been looking into and I think it's really relevant around this time, and I see it cropping up here too. So what was going on is everybody was basically afraid of admitting that Jesus was divine origins, that Jesus is God in the flesh. Nobody wanted to come out and say it. And so that's why things like his description of, well, when you helped out somebody poor, when you helped out the poor guy, you were actually helping me out. Claims like that just totally blew people's minds. And it's because nobody really wanted to admit, or maybe they didn't even, just what I'm trying to get at is, today, within what I see Christians talking about, it seems pretty accepted that Jesus is God in the flesh. But people were they weren't there yet at this time. Jesus's discipleship was still brand new, and a lot of this stuff was way, they just didn't even know how to react to it, I guess. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to point out that sometimes when it seems like people don't get it, or it's like, why is this certain thing really striking these people as like, wow, I can't believe he just said that. It seems to be along those lines of nobody wanted to admit that Jesus is divine, is God in the flesh. And it's something that we just take for granted these days, I guess. That's it for this video. God bless everyone.